just going to cut our music and we'll get going. So welcome to those that have already been on yesterday. Welcome back. Glad you came back. And to those that are jumping on for the first time, welcome to our virtual part of the virtual challenge. So we've set an audacious goal of running 800 kilometres in the month of June, and we are so excited that you're here. It's my pleasure to welcome you today, and I'll be one of the hosts over the next couple of weeks. I'm Claire Baines, for those that don't know me, the GM of Hands, and I'll be here to help you through the next 25 Ks. So I'm going to assume you're riding, you've got your water bottle handy, or you're running, whatever you decide to do. I believe we've got someone roller skating and horse riding through June. So I don't think they'll be doing that in the lounge room though. So firstly, just so that we can get the footage right for you guys today, we've got two guests. We've got Jen and Tomo joining us today. So I'll be switching to gallery view shortly. So if you're on a computer, just make sure you switch to gallery mode. You can still see the ride and you'll be able to see Tomo and Jen having a chat. They're going to help you get through these next Ks. As we said yesterday, the distance you're going to travel during these sessions will vary according to the pace that you're riding at. We have generously allowed, or generously giving you 25 kilometres for each 45-minute session. So if you fall a bit below that, it's totally fine. And if you're pushing a bit harder, feel free to bump up your Ks on my virtual mission. But the most important thing is you're on the bike and you're here to support the kids, and for that we're so grateful. So today we're going to be riding stage 2 of our day 1 of our 8-day Thailand ride. So we're still on the way to Hua Hin, which is a beautiful place. Tomo will remember it well. There's some amazing markets, and yeah, it's just a beautiful town where our tour providers Chris and Gay are actually from. So let's get going. I'm going to introduce you to Mike Tomalaris. So for those that don't know Mike, let me tell you a bit about him. The SBS authority on all things cycling. He's an award-winning journalist. He's the face of the Tour de France, having covered the SBS since 1996. Mike's contribution to the coverage of cycling was recognised in 2011 when he won the Australian Sports Commission Media Award for Best Coverage of Sport by an Individual. In the same year, the network was nominated for a Logie for its coverage of the world's biggest and most prestigious cycling event. With close to 20 years' experience as a cycling journalist, Mike has reported on the world's biggest cycling events, including the Giro, I can never pronounce the Spanish one, Tomo, and the Tour Down Under. He is the host of SBS's weekly cycling program, Cycling Central, which delivers the latest two-wheel action from around the world. On top of covering the busy world cycling calendar, Michael is a senior sports journalist and presenter for SBS flagship nightly news service, World News Australia. Tomo, as he's affectionately known in the Hands community, joined us in March this year for the Digital Live Ride in Thailand, and I'm sure he'll share some stories over the coming weeks with you all. So this morning, Tomo's going to be having a chat with the incredible Jen Brown from Sparta Chicks. So Tomo, I'm going to hand it over to you now and get you to intro the delightful Jen. Tomo, you're on mute. Oh, let's unmute him. All right. Nothing like a tech issue in the morning. You're on mute, Tomo. I need you to unmute. Oh, good morning, Jen. How are you?
Good morning. I'm very well. How are you?
Wonderful. Jen's all rugged up in a garage in Canberra right now, and we've got some Canberra riders on the call actually.
It's only -1 this morning. It's fine. But I do have my hands wrapped around a coffee right now, so if I can't string my words together, or you can see condensation coming out of my mouth, you'll know why.
Oh, you're looking very rugged up. It's good.
I am quite toasty, actually. Thank you.
It's a chilly morning in Sydney at the
Is
moment.
it?
Yes. Yes, it was a lovely 9 degrees when I woke up this morning.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's positively freezing for Sydney.
Yeah.
Although I live out at Penrith and we get a bit colder out there. So.
Oh, yes. Yes, very
Yeah.
chilly. Very chilly out there.
Mm.
Oh, who's in the laundry? We've got someone in the laundry. AB in the laundry in, I can't read that from here. And I can't go onto my screen. But AB's over in New Zealand.
Oh, wow. Speaking of cold, we can't complain about cold.
Yeah, totally. I'm actually going to see if, where are we? Pete, I might promote you to panelist and
Pete, you're up.
we might get you on for a chat. Is that all right, Pete? Good. Good having an extra panelist sitting downstairs, isn't it? All right. Sorry for the tech issues this morning, team. I'm just
Morning, everyone.
trying to.
Hey. Good morning.
Hey, Jen.
Hello.
Hey, so we're riding through the back streets towards Hua Hin here, and Jen, while Tomo gets sorted it out, I'll let the crew know that who you are. So you're a reformed lawyer, and we love reformed lawyers. And I reckon I look at the impact that you've had now and what you're doing with Sparta Chicks, and your goal to impact 10,000 women in a positive way. I reckon you're going to have a bigger impact in what you're doing than you ever could have in the practice of law. So tell me, for you growing up, what was sport like? How important was it in your life?
Not at all, to be honest. So we grew up as reasonably active kids in that, we had a swimming pool in the backyard. We rode our bikes. We had to do a sport throughout each summer and winter throughout high school. But apart from that, that was really the extent of it for me. I was a bookworm. And any time that I wasn't doing schoolwork was actually an excuse to have my head in a book. So it's really funny to see how times have changed. And even a couple of years ago, my mum said to me, like, who are you and what did you do to my bookworm of a daughter? Because I don't think either of us could have imagined some of the things I've done, never mind some of the high altitude stuff or the hiking or the camp, God forbid camping, but yeah.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't a part of my life until I guess my 30s.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'm here, Pete.
It looks like the industrial relations dispute has been settled, arbitration has been achieved, and Tomo's finally agreed to join us. So
sorry about that. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah,
oh, fantastic. My phone just froze up at the most critical time.
No. That's all right, mate.
Hello,
I'll
Jen.
you back, Pete.
I was here to cover you, mate.
Oh, you're doing well, and you're riding your bike as well. Good on you. In the lounge room, is it?
It is. Yep.
No stain marks on the carpet, please. No wet stains on the carpet.
Thank you, Tomo.
All right.
All right. See you. Thanks, Pete.
Okay.
Now, Jen, I'm looking at your website here. Let's just explain to everybody that you have organised this incredible. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's called Sparta Chicks. Now, it says here on the website, brave women achieve big dreams. You've opened up a global online community for brave female triathletes and trail runners who are committed to living their dreams rather than their fears. Now, first of all, the question is, what made you start up this little club?
Good question. So after I was reformed lawyer, I became a personal trainer working with runners and triathletes because that was my background at the time. And that then led into triathlon coaching. And what I realized very quickly within the first year of my coaching men and women was that I was having really different conversations with my male clients as opposed to my female clients. My male clients, and I still work with male clients, but we were having conversations, or they were asking me questions about things like gear and equipment and tires and gear on their bike and nutrition and training session and shoes and all that sort of stuff. My conversations with the majority of my female clients were very different. They were saying things to me like, what if I fail? What if I crash my bike? What if I miss the cutoff? I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I don't belong on that start line. I can't. I'll never. And so I realized there was this great divide in terms of many women's perceptions of what they can do and effectively their right to even try. And so I actually created Sparta Chicks as a portal or a place to actually have those conversations. Because I think at the time, and this would have been 5 or 6 years ago, especially in the sport and health perspective, we were talking about these issues in a corporate setting, but not very well in a sport or health exercise setting where this sort of go hard, go home mentality thrives. That's the culture of the sport. So I created this place for actually us to have these conversations, for women to talk about this stuff, for women to realize that everybody else feels the same way too. They're not alone in their fear and their self-doubt. So that's how it came about.
Yeah, I love the name, Sparta Chicks, and I presume you combined Spartacus, who was a very strong Roman soldier, with chicks. I guess that represents.
I do like the spin you've given on it, but no. So Sparta PT was actually the name of my first coaching business. And then my female clients just started calling them Sparta Chicks, and it stuck. And when I decided to launch this separate brand, there was no other name I could go with. Oh, I can't hear you. You've dropped out again.
Tomo, we've lost you again.
Oh, we've lost him entirely. We're back in Thailand.
We are back in Thailand. Nothing like a good tech issue in Thailand. Peter might have to upgrade you again. No, we've lost you, Tomo.
He's gone.
All right, Pete, I'm bringing you back in.
Have we lost
your hand, Tomo, but we can't hear you.
Nothing like a good tech issue at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I know. There we go. All right, Pete's back. We'll take you off mute.
Hey, Jen.
Hello again.
The problem with this is I'm just sitting reading the paper. Then each time it comes back, I've got to jump on the bike and look like I'm actually riding. So Jen, can you see the footage of the road?
I can when your face is not on the screen, yes. I was just thinking it's amazing footage. What a wonderful way to ride.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that we're really proud of, with the uniqueness and the work that's gone into this ride and or this session, and capturing this is the ride that we ride on in Thailand. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. I want to talk about some of the things that you do personally, and then with Sparta Chicks, and the thing that I was really drawn to is the connection you have with some amazing people and how you're able to help them. And the messaging that you were just given was that a lot of women will talk about what they can, or more importantly, what you were hearing was that what they can't do and what their inhibitions are. How do you help them overcome that? And what's the process you go through to help people get the best out of themselves?
It's a good question. And I find it's a very different answer depending on the person. And I think it starts with awareness and starting with realizing that that fear, that self-doubt is common, and everybody on the face of the planet experiences it, and that they aren't alone and isolated in it. And for some women, that even is enough to get them over the edge, to get them to try to do whatever it is that they want to. But beyond that, it often comes back to a couple of things. One is recognizing all the things that you have done in your life, all the things that you never thought you could do, all the things you once thought were impossible, like all the times you said, I'll never do a triathlon, and then you've done one. We as humans, I think, and women in particular, are really, really good at downplaying and diminishing what we've done in the past. So really, like, I will literally make people write lists of 50 things that they've done in the past that they never thought they could do, really to remind them what they are capable of.
Yeah.
And other things are actually having some responses and some strategies in place for when that fear and self-doubt bubbles up. For some women, that might be visualizations or affirmations. For some women, it might be reaching out and talking to someone else and asking for help. It might be actually taking a step back and taking some time to objectively assess or objectively pick apart what their fear is and what's undermining it, because sometimes fear is legit.
Yeah.
Like, there are situations in which you might die and it might not be a good idea to attempt it.
Yeah.
And sometimes fear is actually constructive feedback. Like, the reason you have the fear is that there is a gap between where you are now and where you want to be. And sometimes there can be a little, grain of truth or some element in there that will help you identify actually what the gap and what you need to do to close that gap. And then it's also about, surrounding yourself with your support crew and your support network and the people who have your back, and drawing on them and believing what they say about you, because they're a little bit more.
I want to stop you on that point. When you talk about surrounding yourself with the people who believe and support, what about for those people who have lived their life when they've always been told what they can't do, they're not good enough, they're too big, they're too slow, they're too old, and they're surrounded by negativity? So how do you help those people who don't have that supportive network? Is that the role that you step in and hold that place for them?
Yes, it's one of the things I do is coaching around fear, self-doubt, and the imposter syndrome. And in many ways, I do hold that space for them. I do help them realize that what has been said to them in the past is not necessarily the truth. It was perhaps the person's truth who said it to them, but not necessarily the truth. So helping them see what has been said to them with a little bit more clarity, with a different lens, a different perspective on it. And also then really diving into that first piece about identifying all the things they have done. Because I think if someone has grown up with a message about not being able to do certain things, they have absolutely diminished everything they've done across life, not just that one thing not just that one story they've been told earlier in life.
And how about when you get people who, I guess by the time you've connected with them, that they've made a decision, they've taken some affirmative action. We've got people who will be listening to this who have been intimidated by the thought of riding 800 Ks over 30 days. And there's plenty of people who won't have done anything around exercise or movement for quite a long time. And we hear that with people, it's decades, and particularly those coming out of having their kids, and kids are now grown up. Talk me through, for someone like that, the process of starting where, a triathlon or a trail run just seems like, a bridge way too far. Yeah. Talk me how you get them through that.
I think there's a couple of things. One is to break it right down. For someone who has never done anything active since they were a kid, a triathlon is freaking scary. It's freaking scary to people who've done them for years too. So that's important to remember too. So I think having really small goals, just really nutting it, breaking it down, each of the components into each of the steps, celebrating each achievement. So like the first time you run 1 kilometer without stopping, celebrate a lot. I was about to swear, but you know, I won't. It's too early for that. You know, celebrate a lot. And I think too, it does come back to, I think what we often do is silo the different parts of our life. So the health and fitness exercise bucket is over there, the work bucket is over there, the family bucket is over there. But the reality is they're not separate buckets. They're all part of you. They are all what you've done. So even though that health and fitness exercise bucket might not have much history in it, you've got massive amounts of history in other parts of your life, of things you have done, of very difficult times you've survived, of difficult conversations you've had, of caring for parents or children. There's a lot of history that you can draw on. So just because one bucket, and that goes equally for all the buckets, like you might be thinking of starting a business. So your business entrepreneur bucket is completely empty if you've never done that before, but that doesn't mean that the experiences you've had in other parts of your life aren't, and the lessons you've learned from those experiences aren't equally applicable in your new business bucket, for example.
It sounds like, Jen, you spend a lot of time getting them ready before you get them into the actual exercise, getting their head right. Would that be a fair observation?
I think it is. They probably run parallel to each other, but certainly once people can start to see their potential or what they might be capable of, then the exercise sort of components certainly we're able to ramp that up a lot faster. And then we continue working on mindset, because that's life, and that's it's a continuum really, and an ongoing process. But I definitely find if we can start working on that mindset piece earliest, it definitely makes an impact in the long run.
And
I'm back on.
You're back on, Tomo. All right, let me ask this last question of Jen, until you drop out again and I come back. But Jen,
You've got so much confidence in me, haven't you?
well, it's like riding with you on the bike. You just disappear all the time, and either to the back of the peloton or into the support vehicle.
Yeah, I disappear after moving to the front of you.
You go missing. So, Jen, I reckon that a lot of the, if we're talking about the ladies that you work with, the biggest challenge they might face is time. You know, that they're working either in or out of the home. They might be managing kids. They might be managing parents. They might be just managing their business. How do you help them find more time to invest in themselves in the pursuit of their trail run?
Very, very good question. There's a couple of things. One of my overarching philosophies in life and in coaching is that your training program should fit around your life. You shouldn't be forced to fit your life around your training program. And the more variability or flexibility you have in your schedule, whether that is because of children or parents or shift workers, etc., the more that needs to apply. So it's actually, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they take a training program, especially a generic one, and then they try and do that. They build their life around that. And the first time they miss a session, all bets are off.
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that the starting point is your week, your normal week, and looking at where the gaps are, where you have time available, where you could make a little bit of extra time available. What are the no-goes? Like, is there a certain night of the week that's family night and that's off limits? And if that's the case, then that's off limits. So it's about starting there. The second thing is about support. It's really important, I think, if you're going to step into this, is that you are actually, if you need some extra support, whether it's in the home or out of the home, that you think about what support you need. It might be to have a conversation with with the spouse or the kids about doing doing some extra chores around the house. It might even be a bit further. It might be about asking a friend or a family member to take the kids one afternoon a week, so that, for an hour, so you can get a training session in. Or it might be external help. It might be a cleaner or a gardener or something like that. But I think of these spots as more like support roles. Like, what roles do you need? What roles are there in your life that you're filling? Can you outsource them? Can you delegate any of them? And I think finally, the number one thing is about guilt. Anytime you use the word should, you are preloading guilt into your life. So we women, and I'll put my hands up, I am guilty of this as much as anyone. We are very good at saying, oh, I should be looking after the kids. I should be cooking dinners. I should. It's BS. You should not. So anytime you use should, you are actually setting yourself up to feel guilty. So just be really conscious of the story that you're telling yourself about what you have to do.
So Jen, you run this amazing podcast, Sparta Chicks Radio, and there's a question that you ask all of your guests, and it's about being an imposter.
Oh, yes.
Lawyer, successful business person, athlete. When was Jen Brown an imposter?
Every day. Every freaking day, I think. The podcast is actually a classic example of that. It took me 12 months from the time I had the idea for the podcast to actually get it off the ground, because I thought I wasn't ready. I wasn't good enough. I didn't belong. I didn't have the skills. I was just like, who am I to do that? And then interestingly, a girlfriend looked at me one day and she's like, Jen, you were a lawyer. And I said to her, yeah. And she said, didn't you just ask people questions for a living? And I went, oh yeah, I do. And I still do ask people questions for a living. So it comes up all the time. And I think that's important. I've asked that question of 132 guests now. All but one have said they experience imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about you? Do you experience the imposter syndrome? We're turning the table now.
This is you and Tomo. Over to you, Tomo.
Well, are you asking me the question about being an imposter, Jen?
Yes, I am asking you the question.
No, I'm handing it back to you. You do whatever you want. You're in charge.
Yeah.
Well, I'm asking the questions now.
Take control, Tomo.
Well, you asked me the question. Now, what exactly do you mean by imposter? How do you elaborate?
The imposter syndrome is a sense of feeling like a fraud, that you don't belong, that you aren't good enough, that you have received the success or achievements you have because of the result of luck or timing, or someone made a mistake, that you basically aren't ready, aren't good enough, and don't deserve the opportunities or the success that you've achieved.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Well, in the early part of my career in media, I honestly thought I wasn't good enough. I didn't think I had strength in presentation. I didn't think I had strength in writing scripts. I didn't think I had strength in the way I delivered my product, my stories on air. But, you gain confidence, don't you? Practice makes perfect, I guess, with everything you do. And I look back now and I think, well, why didn't you have the confidence that perhaps you have now? I feel confident in most things that I do. So I think it's experience. Life is all about experience. Life is about fixing yourself, moving forward. So perhaps we were all frauds once upon a time, but of course you change over time.
Exactly. And I think that's a good point. You are actually, if you've never done something before, technically you probably are a bit of a fraud, because it's new to you. You've never, you can't say you're experiencing something if you haven't done it before. But I think what you said too is really key. It's recognizing that confidence that you will continue to experience it anytime you are faced with a new opportunity and you challenge something you've never done before, but that you now know that the more you do it, the more confidence you'll gain. So I think there's less fear about leaping into those opportunities because you know that you'll find your way through.
Yeah. Hey, Jen, I love riding my bike, and I've been cycling for about 17 years. Before I cycled, I was, excuse me, I was playing soccer from the age of 6 to 42.
Oh, wow.
And the first time I jumped on a bike, I fell over and I broke a bone in my wrist, the scaphoid.
No.
No, I was in hospital for 3 days, and I thought, this is very, very embarrassing. Don't let this out. Don't let news of this go out to anybody. Because I didn't know how to ride a bike properly. Even though I was reporting on cycling, I went to the Tour de France on 6 or 7 occasions before I jumped on a bike. And in the 17 years since, I haven't stopped. I just love it. You know, things have certainly changed for me. But my point is this, I've gained confidence in cycling. I've ridden with Peter and Claire on many occasions. But I know this organisation in Victoria, in Melbourne. It's a cycling group for women called Wheel Women. And I think I spoke to you about this group when we were chatting last week. It's an incredible group. And the reason it got started some years ago was for the same reasons that you've organised Sparta Chicks. Women who perhaps have fears within themselves, perhaps have fears of running long distances, whether it's running or cycling or swimming in your case. But most of the women that are part of Wheel Women, 40 plus year olds whose children perhaps are starting to grow up. For the 50 and 60 plus year olds, their kids have grown up and they've got plenty of time on their hands. And I noticed when you were talking to Peter before, in your case, you're much younger than me, I would imagine. You've got kids. Time management is very important. Time management for 50 plus year olds is not really an issue. We've got plenty of time on our hands if we're not working. So for a group like Wheel Women, it's all about shedding that fear of riding on the road, riding in groups, being familiar with a machine called a bicycle, and shedding those fears.
Yeah,
I guess,
and being able to look after you, being able to change a tire, that's a massive fear of many women starting out because they worry that they won't be able to do it when the time comes if they're riding by themselves. Wheel Women are amazing.
So do you have women who are over 40, 50 years of age who have come to you to say, look, what you've done for me is amazing? Yeah,
I have worked with women up to, I think my oldest client, so my oldest client, trail running client, is 65, but she only started in the last 5 or 6 years. So it's amazing. I think a lot of women actually have that experience of starting once the kids, either sort of 30 to 40, a bit of a midlife crisis there, or the kids are getting a little bit more independent. And I think a lot of women then realize they've kind of lost themselves a little bit. They've been so busy with family and life and stuff. And so it's often they only start in their 30s, 40s, 50s. I know one amazing woman who started running at 52, and she is 90 and still running. She just set an Australian record 6 months ago. So that's the beauty of these sports, is that you can find.
Jen, tell us more about yourself though. How do you train? How much do you train?
Not much at the moment.
Why is that? How are you organising your time management?
Very good question. I am a stickler for routine. I have to be, because if I don't train first thing in the morning, I am excellent at making up excuses as to why it won't get done later in the day. So for me, my training at the moment mostly consists of time on the trails, so trail running and ocean swimming. So I'm not doing any ocean swimming at the moment because it is freezing.
And there's no ocean in Canberra, is there?
And there's well, no, I don't live in Canberra. I live in Sydney, but yeah, there's no ocean. Not that I would want to get into any body of water down here in Canberra at the moment.
There's a few politicians probably in Lake Burley Griffin, aren't there?
There probably is. So for me, it's about routine. It is same time of the day, every day. in some form or another. So I really love sunrise. So even for me on a rest day, I'll get up and go for a walk at sunrise just because it sort of sets my mood for the day. Swim 3 to 4 times a week, always at the same time of day, if possible. Yeah, just the route. I think for me, because my schedule is actually relatively stable, routine and doing the same thing at the same time of day works very well. That won't work for someone else who has a more flexible schedule, but that's me. Because if I wait till 6 o'clock in the evening to go to a run, it's not going to happen. I'll be honest, it will not happen.
Yeah, I just saw a message pop up on my screen that said, I think it's from Christine. Christine started cycling at the age of 52. So there's hope for everybody. It's never too late.
It is never too late. And that is the beauty of cycling, especially above other sports like running, which is a lot harder on the body. Cycling is one of those sports that you can do and keep doing for as long as you're actually physically able. It's low impact on the body. There's lots of amazing bikes out there these days, even into the e-bike market, that will really, I think, our generation of people will be ones who are riding much longer into the future than our parents ever. Oh God, I don't even remember my dad on a bike. So there you go.
Well, I can remember, look, I'm 59 years of age, and I can remember my father when he was about the same age as I am now. And I used to think, geez, you're an old bugger. My dad's still alive. He's 88 years of age, slowly fading, but he's still got a ticker and doing pretty well. But the thing is, when he was 59, I thought he was an old bugger. I feel I could live forever. I'm doing long kilometers on my bicycle. I walk when I'm not cycling. So it's a changing era, isn't it, compared to our parents? Definitely
changing era. Like my mother-in-law, she's 84. She still mows the lawn. God love her. And my parents are late 70s now and quite active, but at the same time, I'm 45 now, and I think at the same age as they were, our lifestyles are completely different. They're still active, but nothing like what we are, and what the next generation will be, I think. So.
Well, my dad was a smoker, and he stopped. He smoked like everybody else did back then. Our parents, were your parents smokers as well?
Dad was a smoker before I was born. He quit when I was born, which was several years ago now. But he has emphysema from 6 years of smoking. So it's sort of that generation. Yeah.
Just tell us now, speaking of the future, we'll start to wrap it up, but what is the future of Sparta Chicks?
The future. It's exciting. It is exciting. I am doing actually more coaching, speaking and training in the corporate area, because these issues, these challenges that many women are struggling with, as I was talking to Pete before, common across the board. So we'll be taking some of the work we're doing effectively around sport into corporate environments. The podcast will continue. It's amazing, a project that I started committing only to 12 episodes has become my biggest passion at work. So that will long continue. And then whenever we're able to train and race again, there'll be some more coaching programs for women in endurance sports. So whether that's triathlon, cycling, running, swimming, to help more women get into the sports. And it's really powerful to see women, in particular women, realize their strengths, because I think for so many women, even my generation, we sort of grew up with a message that girls, it wasn't ladylike to be physical. And so it's really amazing to see women in their 30s, 40s and 50s actually realize how physically strong and fit they can be for the first time in their lives often.
Yeah, fantastic, Jen. I just got a message pop up on my screen from Mary, 55, and I think the message was something along the lines of never ridden before. She's riding now, so well done to you.
Yay, go Mary!
55, that's fantastic.
Amazing.
All right, Jen, lovely to meet you. Congratulations with Sparta Chicks. Good luck for the future, and fantastic what you're doing for women out there. it's a changing world, and you're part of it. You're an advocate. You're an inspiration for many of the ladies out there. So good luck to Sparta Chicks, and strength to you moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
You guys
there she is.
awesome. We've still got about 5 minutes on the bike, so I might just open it up to all of those out there riding, pedaling their little hearts out. If you've got any questions for Tomo or Jen, just pop them in the chat and we'll pick those up. But yeah, great to see some comments coming through from, so we've got Mary, so yeah, 55 years old, hadn't done anything until they rode, I think that might be Mary from DGR, did the 500-kilometre ride over 5 days last year.
Oh, wow.
We've got Susan who was 45 and did 800 kilometres over 8 days. So yeah, we've got some incredible women in our community.
And can I just say, Claire, to those who have never been on a hands across the water ride before on location, of course, we can't ride on location these days because of the global pandemic that's hit everybody. I had an absolute ball when I went to Thailand in March this year. We're seeing vision of the roads and streets and highways and byways of Thailand. What a beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful locations, and the accommodation that you provided and the food along the way was just simply amazing. I had a tremendous week and I made it back home just before the curfew, just before the lockdown. I made it by 1 day. I think you missed out by 1 day, Claire. But
yeah.
Look, for those of you looking for an adventure, hands across the water really is the place to be. In fact, I can remember this location we're entering right now, Claire. Is this...
they're your markets.
They're the markets. What an amazing night that was.
Why are they Tomo's markets? Someone's got to fill in the story for those of us who weren't there.
Well, it's an incredible market where you can buy and sample different foods from the local region in Thailand. And they're not necessarily my market, but I just had a feast that night. They give you coupons where you can sample different foods, seafood, beef, chicken, whatever you want. And
it was like a kid in a candy shop.
But Claire, we don't have any of those sort of markets really in Australia, do we? Where
no,
you can
we
just
don't.
sort of feast out. It's tremendous. And very close to our accommodation, I remember. And that was prior to the first day of riding. But Thailand, apart from the dogs on the streets that run out in front of you and the potholes, look, hands across the water do an amazing job because you ride as a group, you ride as comrades, you're all equal. There are some people in there who might be lawyers or doctors or surgeons, and there are others who might be bum journalists like me. We're all equal, you know, behind the helmets and the glasses and the wearing of lycra, we are all equal when we cycle. And when you ride down the coastline of Thailand, as I did, for part two of the two-part leg, over 500 kilometres, you see the best in Thailand. And for those of you thinking of joining the group in 2021, well, think hard because I had a ball, CT and Pete. Thank you very much.
Oh, look, our pleasure. And for those who have done the coastal ride, you'll be wondering where we are right now, but we're actually, this is a new hotel that we trialed this year. So it's a beautiful hotel on the beach down in Hua Hin and just around the corner from those incredible markets that we just went past. So it's that's day one of our Thailand ride. So we're just pulling into the hotel now.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
You're finished for the day. Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah.
Round of applause. Come on.
Woo!
Woo!
I need some sound effects in the background, don't I? We'll work on that tomorrow.
Like the NRL does.
Yeah.
The crowd effects.
Totally. Look, thank you so much, Tomo and Jen, for joining us. And Jen, you're an absolute inspiration. Just the work that you've done, it's incredible. And I hope everyone's enjoyed their morning on the bike and hearing from you both. So we are at the end of day one. So tomorrow we'll be kicking into, we'll be riding from Petchaburi down to Prachuap Khiri Khan. Now, just remember, once you finish, jump onto My Virtual Mission, upload your kilometres. And if you haven't already done so, click on your little icon as you're going down through Thailand, and you'll actually see on the map whereabouts you are. So we've basically routed the whole of the 800-kilometer ride. So you can click on Street View, see where you are, and it's actually a pretty cool function. So make sure you jump on there and log your Ks. Also, if you're sharing any photos from the morning, we had some great photos coming through yesterday. Thank you. If you're sharing through your socials, don't forget to tag Hands Across the Water, because we'd love to see you guys out and about. And of course, we'll share what you guys are doing across the community. So tomorrow morning, tomorrow's going to be our first ride and chat session. So we're actually breaking out into different chat rooms, and you'll be able to meet some of your fellow riders. So we've got Em, who's our event manager. She'll be online facilitating that, and you'll get to meet some more of the Hands team and of course have a chat with each other. If you love a dress up, it's get wiggy with it tomorrow. So wear your best wig for Wacky Wednesday. But yeah, just come along, have some fun, have a chat, and we'll see you all tomorrow. So thanks, Jen. Thanks, Tomo. Have a great rest of your Tuesday.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys. Bye.